getting a scholarship. And I thought that scholarship sounds good. Why not give it a try? So that's when I gave it a try. Then when I considered Australia as a country, I liked it because, compared to US, it has shorter time span on getting a permanent or a long-term visa option. Just have representatives from universities coming into countries like India or, China or Nepal, where they get a lot of immigrant students from. And it's just about telling them about the university in an in-person kind of place. Okay. I think in order to understand and answer the finance question, it's important to understand the types of universities in Australia. There are three kinds of university. First is group of 8 universities, which are like the Ivy League for US. Then you have the tier 2 universities, and then you have the tier 3 universities.
Welcome to the L Cube Show.
Hi, Pratisha. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on your show.
No. It's really my pleasure having you on the show. For the viewers, this is Karan here. Karan was a student in Australia. He came to do masters in Australia, and he did his bachelor's in India, and he has converted his visa into permanent residency, and he's doing really well in Australia. And he has also 2 startups. He did 2 startups. And let's ask him more. Karan, tell me about your Indian bachelor's first. So where did you do your Indian bachelor's, and what was your degree?
Yeah, so I did my bachelor's in SRM University, Chennai. I've been born and brought up in Ahmedabad, but I thought that it would be better for me to study in a different city. So I moved to Chennai for bachelor's. I did my bachelor's in biomedical engineering. Is the study of equipment used on human body for diagnosis, curing, or just assistive purposes.
Okay.
And yeah, that was me and my bachelor's.
Okay. So in bachelor's, do you have science subjects in biomedical engineering, or how?
Oh yeah. So biomedical engineering is a mix of, I would say, electronics and biology. There are a lot of subjects based on electronic circuits, fuzzy logic, artificial intelligence, and stuff like that. And then you have a lot of subjects biological related, like medical physics, human anatomy, and different kind of subjects. So it's an amalgamation of 2 different kinds of fields together, and to help out. Yeah.
So basically, you should have knowledge in science and also have knowledge in engineering, because you should be knowing how to, let's say if you're making an MRI machine, or, for example, you should know the engineering side to it too. That's how it is?
Exactly. Okay. I think it's about when you love problem solving, like you want to fix things, but you want to help human beings as well, and you want to fix things that fix them. For those kind of people, it's biomedical engineering,
Okay.
Like you want to solve a human disease or a human problem that makes lives better.
Okay. So why Australia, Karan? Why did you choose Australia?
It was a funny story, like Australia was never my first preference. I wanted to go to US because I had an admit from UC Berkeley. And then what I thought was that my friend, he wanted to come here to Australia, and he wanted me to attend a seminar and drive him down because his car was not working that day. So I just went on to the seminar, without any documents or anything like that. And at this seminar, I found one of the representatives from Monash University. And just when I was talking to her, she told me that I could be, getting a scholarship. And I thought that scholarship sounds good. Why not give it a try? So that's when I gave it a try. But then when I considered Australia as a country, I liked it because, compared to US, it has shorter time span on getting a permanent or a long-term visa option. Plus, the weather is too good. It's not as bad as Canada or as cold as Canada. Us being Indians, we like temperate climate. And then with Europe, there is no certainty job-wise. Like companies always prefer short-term contract, whereas in Australia, you have much more opportunities. As for biomedical, it was a very good country in terms of research and production and healthcare sector. So I thought, why not Australia? And that's why I chose Australia.
Okay. So seminar, you said seminar. So these seminars will be held, where is it, in Chennai or is it in Ahmedabad?
I think it happens in all metro cities. I think most major tier 1 or tier 2 cities, because this seminar was definitely held in Ahmedabad, and it was by a company called IDP Australia. I think they are India-wide, and they do help a lot of students move to Australia.
Okay.
And yeah, in these kind of seminars, you just have representatives from universities coming into countries like India or, China or Nepal, where they get a lot of immigrant students from. And it's just about telling them about the university in an in-person kind of place.
So does it
that's
happen
what
only for Australia or all the other countries?
I think it should happen for all countries, because there were a couple of few for Canada and US when I was applying as well.
Okay,
So I'm pretty sure.
All the engineering students, I'm talking about like all the engineering students all over India, are they aware that there are seminars like this being conducted in the cities?
I think for people, those who research and are serious about it, they would know, because all these information is available online. And, if you go to migration agents or somebody, they usually refer you that you should go here or you should go there. So I'm pretty sure it's available. But if you Google it up, I'm pretty sure you can find everything and these dates. So it would be a good idea to visit these seminars.
So otherwise, colleges wouldn't be encouraging you, saying that there are seminars if you want to go and study in Australia or in United States, they won't be through college or anything like that.
To be honest, I've never checked the college website where these kind of information is posted.
No, I mean not for the website. Like, how you have seminars for, let's say, for placements and stuff. They do encourage you and they give you information on placements and everything, right? So is there any section in colleges that give you information saying, okay, there is IDC Australia coming, IDP or IDC Australia? What was that? IDP Australia. So IDP Australia coming, and then you can go and attend and they're going to give you information on universities. Is there anything like that in the colleges, in the engineering colleges?
Not in my college, to be honest. My college had a foreign abroad program where you can study one semester abroad, but that was about it. Like there was nothing more for master's study or any information provided. Yes, we need to note that this was back in 2016 as well, because I graduated in 16-17.
Okay.
So 2016. So there's certain upgrade in a couple of years.
So for the viewers, maybe easily we could say that it's best for them to go and Google or go and meet the migration agents to know more information if you want to go.
I think in this seminar, it's about all the universities, those who are interested in having international students in their universities. They come down in one place and they usually do a couple of cities in one tour or something like that. And they usually tell about what the university has to offer, what kind of services are there, are you eligible for a scholarship or not based on your documents, They provide you a more in-person approach to your college application, where if you have doubts, you can ask them as well, And it goes on for the entire day, like 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, So there is a lot of time. You don't want to occupy the consultant's time for more than 10-15 minutes. But if you know what you're going to ask, it's the best way to create a first impression with the college.
Okay. So what time is a good time to come to Australia to study? Like what is is it Jan or is it July? There will be 2 openings, right? When the master starts, the college starts, the university starts basically. So what is the good time?
I think for Australia, any intake is a good intake, because it just depends, like, being a bimester system, or you have 2 semesters per year, any intake is good. It just depends on when you are graduating. Most of us graduated in March and April. That's how the education system of India is designed.
Yeah.
So July becomes the first or, most preferred intake for Indian students, like June, July intake. Only reason being is because they don't want to have any gaps. So you start usually preparing around 3rd year, and then, you apply straight away after college, and then you can get your admits and you can just move straight away after your college. But January intakes are not too bad either, because a lot of us want to prepare more for our English examinations or for our visa purposes, or to arrange those documents. So even the Jan intake is good. Certain universities in Australia also have a trimester system, like the Deakin University in Melbourne. They have a trimester system where you have 3 semesters per year. But it just depends on what you want to prefer and how long of a preparation time you need. Ideally, I would say keeping 7 to 8 months is the best time, because there are a lot of time delays that occur when you try to arrange for those documents.
Okay. So before going to this seminar, what is it that you have to be prepared for? Like, what do you need? Like your mark sheets, or, like what the English exam you're speaking about, what kind of English exam, and then what else do you need? What is it that set of documents you need to go into the seminar?
Okay. So since I came for masters, I think the first and foremost that would be required are my mark sheets. So 10th, 12th, and then the 8 semesters of mark sheets that I had. That's the first document that you want to show. You also need to show your migration certificate in 12th, or the school leaving certificate that we call in certain cities. It's just because they need to have a proof that you have graduated from an organization and the certificate that you are giving is not unaccredited, So you need those. Apart from that, you need your English examination scores like IELTS, GRE, or PTE. which one you have given. And then you need to have a little bit of information on your financials. You don't need those documents yet, but you just need to know whether you would be able to manage this and that. And in terms of, you obviously need to have your passport. You need to take your passport. You don't need visa as of yet before attending these seminars. So I think it's predominantly about your academic qualifications, and it's better to have a job experience. Like if you have job experience, get that letters, just so that it shows what kind of person you are.
Oh, like they prefer somebody who has job experience. Is that what you're saying?
No, they don't prefer anybody who has job experience. But if you are like, okay, let us say you want to go for masters like 1 year or 2 years after job you should have that experience letter with you as well, just so that they know that, you have these qualifications. Okay. Sometimes having these practical knowledge makes you much more capable of studying in those universities. Okay. So it's always better. Yeah.
Okay. So this question which I'm asking right now is like, I heard it a lot of times, okay, particularly from students who want to go to abroad. Is this good? Because parents, I'm a parent too. I hear a lot of in my friends group discussing that. Is it good for a student who just finished engineering to go and do masters abroad, or is it preferable to do work for 1 year and then go and do your masters abroad?
Okay. It's a circumstantial question, I would say. Primary reason being is that for students who are going abroad, there are two motivation factors. Either you want to stay long term in that country, or you just want to study and come back, right? If you just want to study and come back, then it's always a good thing, because you're getting more practical knowledge and you're understanding how the system works in different countries. You are expanding your knowledge, everything. And then at the end of the day, you're coming back to your own country and giving back and staying with parents and stuff like that. I think the second kind of people where you want to stay long term, that's where most of the parents have this question, or most of the students have this question: will it be good for me or not? The reason being is that once you go abroad, life challenges and the real life situation prepares you a lot. When it comes to whether it is good to go directly after college or have that job experience, I would say if you are getting the job experience, get at least 3 years of job experience, because 3 years is the minimum that they value in foreign countries. If you see Canadian immigration visa, they require 3 years of work experience to get those additional points that help you in your visa application. Similarly, in Australia, if you have 3 years of work experience, you get additional 5 points on your visa application. For US as well. And I think it's the same for Europe as well. So it's always better if you are already started working and it's like more than a year, might as well finish the 2 years and give yourself the chance to have benefit in the visa application process.
Okay.
But if you are not started, then go directly.
Yeah. So from what I understood is that it's better you just jump in right away, or do it properly by gaining 3 years experience, so that in the future, when you finish your masters, when you apply for your permanent residence or anything, you already have the 5 points because you did your 3 years.
Oh, yes. And some of your viewers might have the question that I might get late, or will it be too old, or anything like that. It's not that old, or you don't be too late. Reason being is that you graduate at about 21. 3 years from there is 24, which is the average master's age in Australia or in any other foreign countries. Like I have studied with people who are 35, 36 years old. And it's not a stigma in these countries if you're old. Like it may be something that is looked upon in India, but I don't know whether it is looked down upon now or not. But if it was, it's not that of a stigma here in other countries. So you're never too late to study, as they say. And plus, even if you look by Indian standards, you would complete your master's by the age of 26, which is not too old as well. So yeah, I think either ways, whichever way your circumstances.
It's really good, Karan, because before jumping into the next point, I'm going to conclude this by saying, for someone who has been working in India after finishing their BTech or engineering for 3 years, they would give up hope, and they'll be like, oh, I can't do it anymore. Maybe I just have to give up. But by what you said right now, it's really good that after 3 years, you do have chance. Viewers, I'm telling you, who has been working in India from past 3 years, don't think that, oh, I should have gone when I finished my first 1 year experience, or I should have gone when I finished my engineering. You can come. And as Karan said, it is going to help you get that extra 5 points because you have good work experience.
And if you're doing that, get your experience letter. Don't forget your experience letter.
Yes, do that. And then, Karan, jumping into the finance point, when you go into this seminar, Tell me, what is the average expense to come and do masters in Australia? And do they give you all the fee structure and everything when you attend the seminars? And how does the loan structure work? And how does the banks help you?
Okay. I think in order to understand and answer the finance question, it's important to understand the types of universities in Australia. There are three kinds of university. First is group of 8 universities, which are like the Ivy League for US. Then you have the tier 2 universities, and then you have the tier 3 universities. Group of 8 are obviously the most expensive ones. Then there comes the tier 2, and then comes tier 3. It's all about the resources that you get in these universities, which vary, but we'll come back to that later. In terms of finances or the fees, the group of 8 fees goes somewhere between $65,000 to $90,000 for 2 years. The tier 2 universities would be somewhere about $50,000 to $80,000 or something like that. And then tier 3 universities lower than that. When it comes to loan, I think the standard practice that I followed and I heard from my friends is that you get the loan for both your academic expenses and your personal expenses. Your viewers should know that the Australian government expects you to have 2 years of finances to be able to support yourself. Like if you are a student and if you don't have a job, you cannot go saying that I don't have a job and I can't do this, because like I don't have the money and I can't pay my fees or something like that. Obviously, certain circumstantial situations that change later are considered, but it is expected that you would have 2 years worth of your finances. And when you cover all that, I think the total comes to about $90,000 to about $110,000.
When you said finances, you're talking about accommodation and food and personal expenses
Everything,
as
yes,
well.
that's
Everything
correct. Everything,
included.
yes.
They expect you to have everything ready with you while you're coming in.
Yes, they expect you to have the money for everything for 2 years.
Okay.
Additionally, what you have provision here is that you have 20 hours of work hours per week, which means you can work and earn that money. But that is because you can do it on the side if you're comfortable with your academics. The government thinks that you are here to study, so you should. It's legal to work 20 hours a week, so you should. A lot of immigrants do. I did as well, and you save up a lot.
Okay.
So it's good to work, and it's good. We can manage. It's nothing that you can't manage or the studies are difficult. You can easily manage, but that's what Australian government expects. And Indian banks do give out loans for these amounts. They understand that that's how the system works, so it's easy to get. I think there are a couple of providers out there like HDFC Credila, SBI Life, and different kind of insurance. But it should be easy to get as long as
they give you 100%. The whole expenses part
100%.
And the education part, everything.
Yes, they give you everything because that's a standard norm that goes on across. So they know it happened. It's been happening for years, and they give 100% as long as you have collateral against that complete value.
Okay.
They just wouldn't give you against without a collateral.
So for them to give you that, do they need any letter from the particular university saying that, yes, we are offering the seat to this candidate, or how does that work?
So I think this is where, it's like a triangle or a trifactor that works between the visa, the university, and the bank loans that you're taking, right? So how it works is you apply to a university. The university looks at your situation right now and offers you something known as a conditional offer letter. This conditional offer letter is then given to the bank to get the loan. Once you have the loan, this is your financial and academic sorted. You can apply it for the visa purposes because the visa requires you to have the finances sorted. So for bank loans, all you need is a offer letter or a conditional offer letter from the university, and all the right documents to get the loans, which would again be just what you are keeping as collateral, your academics, your uni offer letter, parents' ID cards, and stuff like that.
Okay, so it looks like a very pretty, like very easy road to me. From what you said, you're getting a conditional agreement saying provided the finances, and which the banks are ready to provide the finances if you have that conditional, and then you have a visa process, which is a very clean thing to do, right? There are no.
I think it has developed more over these years. Like before coming to podcast, I did talk to a lot of my friends who have come here recently, and I think it has developed much more better than what it was during my time. Reason also being that number of Indians coming to at least Australia has overpassed any other country that are coming. Like earlier, Chinese student used to be the highest number of international students, but now Indians have overtaken. them. So I think the banks and the system understands that there is a gap and they're trying to fill it. As of yet, this is the process that I know, and it seems straightforward and it's easy. That's why you see a lot of students going abroad. And it's very assistive. I think as long as you're here and nobody cheats you, you should be good.
Yes. So I have two questions here, Karan. The main important thing is that, let's say in your semesters, if you have any arrears, you didn't pass the exams or anything, and then you did clear them later in the next semesters or in the next years, do they actually, is that a problem with your application, or is that a problem?
Not a problem with your application in the university. Like, they understand that you are not good at every subject. Nobody can be good at every subject, right? Like, I'm not good at physics. I hate physics. But yeah. So
I hate math. I hate math.
Okay. I like maths. I just hate physics. But yes. So as I was saying, it's not difficult for you to get an admit to a university. They wouldn't judge you based on your academics or something like that. If provided once they might ask you, like, for your visa, you need to write a statement of purpose or an essay that shows that why you want to study in that country, right? In that similar kind of thing, you also need to submit for a university when you're applying a brief description. It's not an essay per se, but it's a brief description. If you just let them know that why you had an arrear or you didn't understand the subject and show them that you have cleared in future, they actually take this as a positive sign, that this person has the resilience to overcome his shortcomings. Wow. So it's not a problem there. But
because I just want to intervene here and just make a point, because a lot of Indian kids, it's just because they had to choose the degree or something, they just choose it. But some of the subjects, they may be not good at it, and then they feel very inferior that, I'm not good at this and I have the arrears and I couldn't take over. Please don't feel that. As Karan said, when you can say in the application, it's okay. I'm sure in Australia, because I'm living in Australia too, I understand that they understand when you have actually overcome something, and admitting that I didn't know this, but I overcame it, is a very good attitude, which they look to. Yeah,
that's definitely true. And I think, I have never, to be honest, I've never failed a subject, but I did once when I was here in Australia.
Okay.
So for people back in India, if you feel, I understand it's genuine to feel bad.
Yes.
Just an emotion. Don't worry. There is always a way out of it, and nobody looks down upon it, to be honest. So
yes. This is a really good point to bring up on the podcast, Karan, because a lot of the kids, when they're doing engineering, it could be any situation, while you're in your engineering, any situation, and then you couldn't do well in that subject. It's okay. So don't feel bad about that. And about the IELTS or the PT, I think these are the two which will be accepted in Australia, right? GRE is accepted too? Is GRE accepted?
No, GRE is only accepted in US.
Okay.
IELTS is accepted globally in almost every country. And PT is more Europe and Australia.
So how much do they expect from you, from the student?
So for a student visa, in your PT or IELTS, you need to get a 6 bands or above, which means that you have the basic knowledge to converse in English and understand the academic knowledge that they are giving. So this exam that you give is called PT Academics or IELTS Academic. And later, for your visa purposes, you give PT General or IELTS General.
For your permanent residency. That's later in your life. Okay. Yes. Right. And after this, everything, all your banks clear up, and then you go to the visa. How long is the visa process?
I think there was a backlog with visa because of COVID, as it was, I think, for a lot of countries. But the process is picking up now.
Yes, it is.
According to the government website, for a student visa, the standard time is from about 30 days to 6-7 months. It usually, I think, ideal preparation time would be somewhere between 2 to 3 months, which means that if you want to apply for June, July intake, it's better to start applying for visa around March.
Okay.
Which gives you enough time to, actually attend the start of your college and make sure you have some time to settle down and make sure you have your accommodation sorted, the way to your college or university, because you would be new to the country. So you have your SIM cards sorted, finances sorted, and everything.
Okay.
So planning with 3 months.
Yeah. Sorry. When you said March, would you be receiving your mark sheet and everything by then?
Oh, no. So basically how it works is that if you are planning 3 months ahead, right? Let us say that March you have given your examination. Your visa is not only about your mark sheets. It's about a lot of things. And when I say you need to start making your application, I mean that you need to start filling out on the website, because once you start filling out on the website, the application form, that alone is very big. It requires for you to have your travel history, your parents' travel history, all the houses that you have stayed. There's a lot of information that goes on there. And if we feel that it's just a day's job, then it's not like that, because people, when we have usually accustomed to apply for travel visas or something like that, it usually happens within a day that you applied on the online file and it just goes ahead.
Yes.
But when you're applying for a university or something, the process is much more complicated. So in that view, I'm asking, or I'm suggesting that they keep 3 months in hand and start applying, so that by the time you put all the checklists and go through, you have all the documents that are needed.
Okay, so you can produce the documents when you go to the visa.
You can keep on adding documents to your application file as and when you receive them.
Okay. So these tier 1 universities, when you said, how do they rate you? Like according to your percentage, how much you got in your degree, or how do they rate you and they select you? And how do you know you're eligible for tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3? How do you know that?
I think everybody is eligible for every university. That's the beauty of, foreign education, because, okay, I'm a biomedical engineer, which is a very niche field, right? So you would expect us to be brilliant people and, know everything or something like that.
Yes.
At least it sounds heavy. I don't know if I am that guy, but it sounds heavy.
It sounds so fancy.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, my academic scores were no more than 80%, right? In school, I didn't have a lot of sports. I used to play for my school, but that's it. In terms of extracurricular, debating was the only thing that I was good at. Like I didn't have. So it's the overall application that they see. They want people, or they want students who are gonna bring value or add value not only to their university, but also to the country. Like if tomorrow I am a graduate from Monash University, but I excel in sports, and the headlines read Monash alum, does this,
Yes.
or Monash alum does that. They require people who gonna add value to your university.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if you have a 55 percentage, but you are a national level player. Go apply. There are sports scholarships. Okay. There are different kinds of ways to enter these universities, and you can actually get into tier 1 university. And I tell you this because I studied with an international student who was a national level player in his country, which was South Korea, but she never got more than 50 or 52 percentage in her entire life, not even while she was studying with us. Mm-hmm. She barely passed on, but she was such a good badminton player that Monash kept offering her scholarship, and she was paying a fees that was way lesser than mine as well, Okay. So it doesn't matter. Like, as we are accustomed in India, just your academic credentials are not something that decides in which university you enter. How you present your application, how you portray your circumstances, what kind of value you bring in terms of extracurricular sports, academics, everything matters. Okay. And that's why when I say that anybody is eligible, this is the reason why I say that if you can prove that you are good enough for the universities usually take you. Yeah.
Okay. I have two questions here, Karan. One is regarding the scholarships. Okay. How will you be eligible for the scholarship? And number two is it good to go through these migration agents, or is it better to apply by yourself online, or is it better to go to seminars like you did? Which is the best way to promote your application?
I think the best way to promote your application would be, you definitely need to go through all these seminars and stuff because it's free, and it is usually done by these migration agents who want more students to come to them and apply. If you see the seminar, you would see IDP Australia seminar. You won't see Monash University seminar. Yes. Or Universities of Australia seminar. It would be by an education consultant.
Yeah.
My best advice to your viewers would be, go to a couple of different consultants, talk to them, see if they can make you comfortable with your application process. Always attend these seminars. And because it's the matter for your, future life, it's better, because it's an expensive process. I wouldn't lie. Applying to Australia or any other country is an expensive process. So you want to do it right the first time, right? So it's always better to have these opinions from education consultant. And at least when you are going abroad for masters or studying, it's not that it's too expensive, but it's not too cheap as well. It's right in the middle. So it's always better to have that advice and, just pay a little bit extra and get that comfort zone of somebody else doing all the hard work for you and making sure that they're responsible. So yeah.
But is it good also that you also have an idea, like do research online, then have
Oh
an idea?
yeah. Like I did all the research by myself. I would call my education consultant 10 times a day and they would have to answer because I was paying them,
Yeah.
So it's just about finding the right person who can make you comfortable in the entire process.
Okay. So
and I think sometimes,
yeah, go on.
sorry, I think sometimes if you find the right person, they also help you with your second question, which is scholarships, because they know much more about these universities than you would. Like obviously you can search on Google, but then you can't search everything, right? Because you don't know, or if you have already made a mindset in your frame that, oh, I have scored only 55%, I might not be eligible for a scholarship, something like that. So it's better.
How much scholarship can we expect? Let's say when you said 90,000, let's go to the highest, okay? $90,000 is your fees. And then how much can we expect?
So similar to my fees was $85,000 and I received a scholarship for $25,000 provided I maintained my academic marks. So I had an academic scholarship at 80% for the viewers. I had scored only 80%, but I had received an academic scholarship because I had papers written in my engineering field. I had published academic papers, which helped me prove that I knew what I was doing. And that's why I got the scholarship. But yeah, I would say a standard scholarship goes from about 25% of your fees to all the way up till 100%.
Oh,
it depends on the scholarship that you get.
All the way up to 100%?
Yes. So there are scholarships that give you 100% scholarship in universities.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But you need to remember that you're competing on an international scale.
Yeah.
Not competing for students against India. You're competing on an international scale.
Yes. Okay, so scholarships, and then and as you said that it's better to go to the seminars as well. I think that's a really good point for the viewers. Please, viewers.
That's your initial work before making a judgment about a university or a country. Always go to these seminars, get as much information as you can.
Yes.
And even if you have picked a country, like I had always picked up USA, I never thought of coming to Australia. Always go to other countries' seminar just to get an idea what they are offering. Because US was not offering me scholarship or anything, but Australia did. And if I would have taken the other decision of going to Berkeley or something like that, I would have paid expensive. My life would be different. I don't know, but at least it was less expensive than it would have been in US.
Okay. So please keep going to these seminars. Please go and see a good educational consultant and keep researching yourself and do the right thing. And so we got our visa sorted. We got our everything sorted. You came to Australia, which is a new country here. Tell me the basic difference in the university from India to Australia and the teachers to exams. How you're rated in your exams and how are the subjects divided, everything.
Okay, so we'll start with university life. I think university life here in Australia is much more social as it is compared to India. And when I say social, I mean that there are a lot of events happening all day, every day in a university here in Australia, be it tier 1 or tier 2 university. You would always find some or the other events happening. Plus, you get a lot of resources. Like I used to take laptops on rent from the library just to do all the work or projects that I needed, because a lot of softwares were very heavy for the laptop that I was using. So I would get a MacBook or anything like that, which was supporting the software that I was doing. You also get a lot of these softwares for free from the universities. And usually it is for like 3 years. Even if your master's degree is for 2 years, you get 3 years licenses for these softwares, And it's much more student-oriented approach in these universities because they value the opinion of students. In Australian universities, you have student unions, which actually makes sure that student life is manageable and there is a balance maintained between what the university wants and what the student wants. An example for this would be that, like Monash itself, I was the coursework education officer for Monash. So Monash one day decided that currently, if I wanted to drop out of a subject without having my fees deducted, it was 1 month or 4 weeks from the day of orientation. They wanted to reduce that to 2 weeks, which means that I have less time to understand whether I'm good enough for this subject or not. This is what students didn't like. And that's when the student unions come in, that these student unions then talk to universities and help them understand that this is not what students want, and you need to make sure, that this needs to be changed. Now in India, I don't think that's possible because it's much more
I'm
whatever
waiting for you
university.
to say that it actually succeeded, because it's really not possible there. So
Yeah.
did you succeed in
Oh,
that?
it did, yes. So I brought a, not me alone, but the entire union actually brought a lot of student centric changes. Like we had e-examination, I think 2 years before COVID hit us. Like Monash
Wow.
was doing online examination before COVID hit us, and that's why Monash distant education picked up like this when COVID came up. Like a lot of
Okay.
students were opting in because the infrastructure was always in place.
Okay.
So like that, it did happen. Monash never reduced that, period, and it is still 4 weeks as of yet.
Okay.
So they do listen to them, because if students don't like, university understands they won't come.
Of course. That's very good.
The word of
And they should understand that.
yes.
Yeah.
So that's why they understand what these unions have a role to play, and they also fund these unions, and it's only run by the students.
Wow.
So
The
there is
teachers are
no
not
staff,
involved. The
no,
university is not
there is
involved.
no staff members involved who is working for the university. There are staff members in the unions, but they are working for the unions, not for the university.
Wow. Mm.
So if you go to a union there, that university is not involved. There's a confidentiality between you and the university. So that's the first difference that I would like to point out in terms of social life, life, and university resources. Like for every problem, the union is your solution, because if you go there, they have all the moving to teachers and professors and subjects. I think Australia adopts a much more practical approach than India. India, it is a bit of more of rote learning and having that information, stuck in your head. Australia, it's more about implementation. It could also be because I studied masters, but my bachelor's friends don't say any different, and they
Yes.
don't have any different opinion.
Yes.
I think the reason is because you can always retain the knowledge by going back to the books or something like that, but the implementation is a skill. And that's one more difference that I found. That being said, whatever I had learned in bachelor's, and because it stuck behind, I had a stronger base or academic skills than my peers in the university, but I lacked the practical skills as well. Like they would be very good at practical part of the subject than I would, but the academic part of it, I would be better.
Okay.
So to be honest, I think Indians have an advantage when it comes to Australian education system, because the practical thing is just about implementation, which you can learn with errors. But
Yes.
the academic retention is something that is imbibed in us from a very small and young age through learning, that we tend to do that.
Even if we wake up from sleep, we have to tell all the tables: 9 times 5, 9 times 9.
13. Yeah, I remember the table of 30. My father used to ask me so many
13
times.
table. You remember 13 table?
1, 3. They used to ask me a lot of times. 1, 3.
I learned until 11th table. That's enough. Okay.
But yeah, he used to quiz me. I think that's why I was good at maths. He used to quiz me a lot.
Okay.
And yeah, and in moving on in terms of grades, I think with grades, we have something called as GPA or grade point average.
Yes.
And I think in India, we have absolute grading. So the difference between those is that, in my opinion, or at least to my understanding, is that the grade point average is the understanding of your entire batch. So let us say that there is a subject which I'm not good at. But if my entire batch is not good at, my marks won't drop down. Because if the highest in class is, let us say, the top score in the class is 90.
Yep.
Right? And the second score is 60.
Wow.
Then both the person who has got 90 and the 60 will get the same grade.
Which grade is that?
But in India, in the mark sheet, it would show as 90 and 60.
No, so the person who got 90 and 60, what grade do they get?
So they get A grade, or they get, like there's a grade point average. So in Monash, it is A plus, A, B plus, B, C, and like that, like 10 points.
Okay.
Like that. But it is 10% of the class. It is not the top 10 marks. Like it's not 90 to 100 is A plus.
Yeah,
it is the top 10% of the class is A plus.
Wow. Okay.
Which means it depends, like it tells people, universities, your employers that, the subject is difficult. It's not that, you are not the person who does not know. It's that the subject is difficult.
Yeah.
And because of this grade point average and our good base scores, it's easier for us to have a good grade point average. Like my GPA in Monash was 3.8 out of 4.
Okay.
Which is like 90 percentile, right?
Yeah.
But in India, I was only 80% student, and that's how I got it.
Okay.
So as you see, it's easier for us to score because our academic knowledge is good. And that's the difference between grade point average and absolute grading.
Okay. Is it different for bachelors or is it Sydney? Because I heard the GPA is different for bachelors in Sydney. I heard somewhere around like 7 6s and all that. 4 is the minimum.
I think it depends on university to university. Like Monash has a 4-point grade average, which is a US system.
Okay.
A lot of universities have 10-point grade average system, which is a European system. And then there is a 7-point grade system, which is, I think, the Canadian one as well.
Yes.
So it depends on the university that you're going and the approach they adopt.
Okay. So otherwise, the exams are very easy. Like as a bachelor student in engineering in India, let's say if you are a 60% student, okay? Let's not aim for 80, a 60% student. If you're coming and doing masters here, would you be okay with it?
Oh, yeah. Because see, in masters, teachers, friends, and students, they don't spoon feed you. Whereas in India, you have that, okay, if I don't understand, somebody is going to sit down with me and make me understand this,
Do they do that in engineering, biomedical engineering as well?
Oh, yes. I mean, like, as I said, like physics, I don't like physics. And there is this subject called medical physics in bachelors, which you have to do it. It's all about radiation and, how it decays and stuff like that. But let us ignore what it is. And so I used to go and sit with teachers after college hours to understand because I wanted to pass. I was such a horrible student in that subject. It was hard for me to pass. I had to make that effort. And they would teach me, they would give me their notes, they would make me understand, and all that. But if I did the same thing with my professor here, he would be like, no, I don't have time for all this. You need to do this by yourself at home. If you don't understand something, find the problem, do your solutions, and then I'll help you choose which is the right way of doing it. They usually show the path. Whereas back in India, they give you the results by themselves by working with you. I don't say it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a different of method in these countries.
Okay.
So as I said, it should be easier for the 60 percentile to score because what he's learning here is how to actually implement what he has learned rather than just learning and remembering stuff.
Why I asked you that question is basically because, again, coming to the same inferior point, you feel low confident that I only have 60, I only have 65, 70. Will I be good at doing masters abroad? Trust me, there are a lot of kids who are actually good at a lot of other stuff, as you said before regarding the application as well. You don't have to be good at just academics. You have some of the skills which you can present, which you can bring better things to the environment as better things to the university as well, but I'm asking this question only for them that you can succeed even with that 60%. So please don't beat yourself up and think that it's not possible. Yeah, I just wanted to tell that.
And there are much more resources available as well. Because here, if you tell somebody that you've scored 60%, they're not going to look down upon you and judge. Yeah. I think that's still a practice in India, but this is something which gives you a much more open and comfortable environment to learn, which makes it easier for you to learn. That's what I feel, that you don't have that mental stress,
Okay. So what are those cautious don't do's, if you want to say, let's say exams wise or universities wise, or particularly plagiarism and stuff, which is really important. Australia takes plagiarism really seriously. So please tell the viewers, particularly who wants to come here to study, what are the no's? Do not do this.
Okay. I think first things first, we'll go from academics and then move on to life.
Okay.
In terms of university, I don't think your viewers or anybody should select a university or a course just based on the name of the course. I'll tell you the difference. Like, there is a course called Biomedical Sciences in Monash University, and then there is a course.
Monash University is in Melbourne.
Yes.
Victoria.
Yeah, that's where I studied, in Victoria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have a course called Biomedical Sciences, and then they have a course of Medical Engineering, but they don't have a course called Biomedical Engineering, right? Now, if I search on Google Biomedical Engineering in Monash, it would only give me these two results. And because we would see that there's no biomedical engineering, why should I choose Monash? And let's go to other universities.
Okay.
But when you go down to course structures and actually see what subjects they are studying, that's how you should select your course. So that would be my first, that just don't go by the name of the course.
Good point.
Second would be, once you're in the university, you don't want to, get involved in plagiarism and collusion, as you said. Now, what are these? Plagiarism is basically representing anybody else's work as your work, right? So let us say you take
most of them do.
Sorry? Yes, we do that. There's no point in taking others' work, but you need to reference them correctly in your work and make them understand that this is what you have taken from them. I can't take a word by word paragraph from somebody else's work and put it down as my own, right?
Oh, so the university understands that, let's say if you're inspired from somebody else's work, but put it into your words, is that all they're asking for?
No, but it needs to be referenced, that where did I get this idea from? So if I'm doing a paper on, let us say, movement of hands, like this hand is moving, and somebody has researched that this hand is moving at 30 degrees. You can't say that, yeah, I know that the hand moves at 30 degrees. I need to say that according to Joseph et al. Or whoever wrote that paper and his research, the hand moves at 30 degrees. And then I know that with the hand moving at 30 degrees, so and so could be the implications or something like that. But it needs to be referenced. You need to tell them that where did you get this information from and what is your inference from that information. It's just like reading news, right? You read the news. For some people, the same news is good. For some people, the same news is bad.
Okay.
Then they pass on their judgments. Similarly, if you have taken an information from somebody else, you can always write what is your inference from it. Okay. That from the information that they have provided, you can tell that this is why I feel that this is right. Or this is why I feel that the hand only moves at 30 degrees, because he did all his research. And I understood his research. Okay. As I said, you don't want to get involved in plagiarism and collusion, because these are something that the universities take very seriously.
Small doubt.
And the repercussion of it.
Okay, I have to break you here. Plagiarism is something you're copying from, or let's say you're taking it from somebody who actually wrote about it. What is the other word you said?
Collusion. So C-O-L.
Okay. Clearly tell me, is a plagiarism where you have to give the reference? What is collusion then?
Collusion is basically a lot of you doing the same work and giving the same work, saying that it's yours. So let us say if me and my friends do an assignment together, but we don't include our friend's name or, something like that, and all of us present the same assignment together, it's called collusion.
Oh, of course it's a collusion. Okay, I get it why it's named that. Okay, yes. Okay. So they strictly check all that.
Yes. So all my papers and assignments in Monash is stored for 7 years after I graduated. So if I've graduated in 2020, they are still going to be in the records for 2027, which means I can't give any of my juniors my assignment and they can pass it on as theirs, because they know that that's my assignment.
Wow. So you have to do your own assignments then?
Yes. And they have very strict softwares. They have database going back to at least 20, 30, 40 years. So you don't want to risk it. So that's another definite don't. I think these are the only ones that I have in terms of academics. Like the only one more thing I would say is never stop asking for help. If you don't think don't know something, ask for help. There is always an option available and somebody would be always ready to help you. And in terms of life, I would just say that move abroad for studies if you are ready to accept the challenges that come with it. Okay. Staying alone from parents, working part-time and earning your own finances, making sure your health is okay, making your life responsibilities straight, being able to pay your taxes and stuff like that. Like only go
being responsible. Being responsible. Yeah.
If you're accepting those ideas and challenges.
Yeah. So medical, you said, the health you said. So will there be insurance and providing what?
So when you apply for your visa, you are expected to have something known as overseas health cover, which covers you for all the diseases that happen while you are here in Australia. What it doesn't cover is a doctor's treatment, as in when you get a surgery or something like that. It doesn't cover your sexual health diseases, your mental health diseases, your eye diseases, and your dental diseases.
Okay.
They don't cover these four. but I think they cover most of it. So like if you have a fever or something like that, you can go to GP and that's completely free. For most of these insurances, there are listed doctors, but if there are no listed doctors, you can just go to GP and get it fixed.
Okay. So when you said doctor's fees, you're talking about, let's say they have to go undergo, touch wood, any surgery. The rest all is covered except the doctor fees. Oh, that's
yes.
not.
So your hospital charge is covered, and your medicine
That's
charge.
not covered even for permanent residents and citizens for a lot of other things. So that's okay. That's completely okay. So fine. We talked about the university life and university subjects and everything, which pretty much are very clear actually. How about the accommodation? How a person, when they land in Australia or before landing in Australia, how do you plan your accommodation? How do you plan your food side? And how expensive is it generally in a month? Because you're working 20 hours. How do you plan all that?
I think, first of all, the work that you do for 20 hours is good enough for you to support you. Like, if you get the pay that is base pay of $20 in Australia, with that and 20 hours, that's $400 a week, which is a good enough amount for you to survive here in Australia, provided you don't have any extravagant habits. Like if you want to eat outside every day or if you want to party every day, that's a different kind of stuff. Like your life, your call, but then it won't be sustainable.
Yeah.
But if you're having a basic life, where you cook, you do meal prep, you use public transport, or even if you have car, it's not that extravagant or something like that. The 20 years of work is good enough for you to support you.
Okay.
In terms of accommodation, there are two ways. You can either take uni accommodation or you can go for a PG.
Okay.
The uni accommodation is usually expensive than PG, and not a lot of international students, prefer that.
Okay.
But yes, if you have the luxury for it, you go for it.
Okay.
For PG, it's always better to have your friends and staying together, especially if you know somebody from India. Maybe if you find some friends in these seminars that I was mentioning about, or with your education consultant or somebody, it's always better to live your first 6 months with people so that you don't have challenges with your roommates, because living together with somebody as a roommate or a flatmate is very different than living with somebody else. So you do that. And you can find these PG options on websites like flatmates.com.au or realestate.com.au. If you have friends together, you go to realestate.com.au and rent an apartment together. If you don't have those, then you need to go to Flatmates, or you can go to Indians in Facebook groups like Indians in Sydney or Indians in Melbourne or something like that. And there's usually people who help you out.
Okay. When you said realestate.com.au, won't they be asking for your documents of earning pay slips or things like that if they have to give you an accommodation?
They do, but there are a lot of, so it depends on rental owners to rental owners. There are a lot of agencies and rental owners who don't mind giving their accommodations to international students because it's a very big market out there.
Yes.
Even if you're an international student and you don't have a history here in Australia, provided you have the finances back and you give something called as a bond, they would be able to take you in, and it shouldn't be that problem.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So when you came to Australia, where did you live initially?
So for the first 2 weeks, I stayed with a family.
Okay.
And then I found friends in university, and then I moved in with them.
Oh, good.
And then I stayed 2 years with them. So it all worked out.
Okay. So while you're doing your studies, is it easy to find a job 20 hours per week? Is it easy?
I think it's easier now than in my time. The reason being that Uber Eats and food delivery options have increased, and they pay good enough money as well. So it's easier for you to do that.
Okay.
But yes, job opportunities are available, but they are not easy.
Okay. So Indian license is good, even if you want to.
For the first 3 months, yes. So I think in Victoria, it's first 3 months. In New South Wales, it's first 6 months. But you should keep that. If you have international license, it's better to get it converted within first 3 to 6 months.
You finish your studies. Let's say you finish your studies successfully for 2 years. So what is the visa process then? If you want to get a job in Australia and you want to get permanent residency, tell me briefly, what is the process?
So the process is, after your student visa, you get something called as your temporary residency. It's usually guaranteed until and unless you have done something very wrong or illegal during your student visa.
Okay.
It is the time that Australian government gives you to use what 2 years you have studied, because they want you guys to stay here and work in the industry and stuff like that. So that's what you do with your temporary residency. Applying for it is very easy. There is a small fees involved, but anybody can do it by themselves. You don't need an agent for that. It is that easy. And moving forward, these 2 years, you collect a certain set of points, which is available on Department of Immigration website. There are different ways like examinations, work experience, age, and different factors. And once you collect all those points, you apply for PR. The two popular streams is 189, which is skilled independent visa, and state sponsorship, which is 190.
Okay. So in these 2 years, you'll be working in the field of your studies, or you can be working as anything else?
You can work wherever you want to, but it is advisable if you want your permanent residency, you need to be working in your field. Because that's what you came here for. That's what you studied and that's what you wanted to do. So it shows that you're prepared and you made the right decision. So it's always better to work in your field.
Okay. Otherwise, as you did, as we spoke before podcast, that you just finished in 3 months, you achieved the point score, and then you got your permanent residency. You can do that.
Yes, that's because I did a lot of these during my student visa. Like, as I said, I had 1 years of work experience back in India. So that's what I did. So I got all those points sorted during my student visa. Maybe I just was not very patient,
Okay. So here, Karan here is not just, I don't want to keep asking only about the student and all the questions, because he's a good entrepreneur, because he has 2 startups, one in India and one in Australia. He didn't leave Australia alone. After coming here, he just started up here as well.
Yeah, I think I was never wanted to be the 9 to 5 kind of guy. So I always wanted to have something of my own.
Yeah.
Even if it is on a side hustle, I don't mind, but it's something that I have always loved.
Yeah.
So back in India, I ran a startup for 1 year, and then I continued here as an event management business owner here in Australia.
So you were stuck in the traffic and then you did startups.
Oh, yes. As Rahul wrote it.
That's the famous Rahul Subramanian stand-up comedy thing. He speaks about Bangalore traffic. And then everybody's stuck in the traffic and then they just start up. Tell me about startup. First, tell me about your Indian startup. What is it about? And then when did you start? Did you start it when you're doing your engineering itself?
Yes. So we had the idea for it during the 3rd year of our engineering. It's a paper-based bulk printing company. We got the idea because a lot of students in India are still going for print paper, and you need to print those theses and stuff like that. And there was queues waiting for hours and 2 hours. So we thought there has to be a better online option for these. And moving on, we started something called as imprigo.com. It's a paper-based bulk printing company for universities and businesses where, we print certificates, brochures, flyers, anything that needs to be printed in bulk, not like single quantity or like that. Anything that needs to go above 500 or something like that, we would print that. And our USP was that we would print any number of quantity within 24 hours. And one of the fastest services that we provided was for Nirma University back then, where we printed 3,000 certificates in, I think, under 3 hours with delivery time included. So we delivered to them as well.
Wow. So all of you were students while you're doing this?
So when we had the model and infrastructure and the vendors and everything sorted, we were students. And as soon as we completed, we started in Ahmedabad, which was our hometown, because we moved back to hometown. So we started it then. But we did all the trial and error in Chennai while we were in our 3rd years.
Okay. So all this printing and your website and your business, it's all over the place, or is it located just in Ahmedabad?
It is located in 3 cities, which is Delhi, Ahmedabad, and Chennai, because that's where we stayed.
Okay.
So Chennai was where we did our education. Ahmedabad is our hometown, and Delhi was where I was working. So it's based on these 3 places.
Okay.
Currently, it only runs out of Ahmedabad because both the partners or both the founders have moved to different countries. And it's one of our vendors who runs the company. So we've sold 80% of our company to him. And the rest 20% is 10% mine and 10% his, where we enjoy the profits alone. He manages everything for us.
Okay.
But we do all the client interactions. So we are the face of the company, but he's the hands and legs of the company.
Okay. So printing, you have printing presses, or you're not doing the printing? Who is doing the printing?
No, we don't have any printing presses. We rent the printers. If you are a printer,
Okay.
and you have the machine, we would come to you, we would rent your machine based on its capacity. Like if it can print, 5,000 copies an hour, 2,000 copies an hour, 1,000 copies an hour, and we
Okay.
would rent you accordingly. The machine cost is yours, the electricity is yours, the paper is ours, and the work is ours. So when I give you work, you become like my work becomes the priority, and he has to get it done as soon as possible because I'm paying him. The advantage for them is they have a fixed income irrespective of the order that I'm giving them. They
Okay.
do charge me for the order that I give them, but they don't
Okay.
charge me for the paper.
Okay.
So if I don't give him zero order, he still gets a fixed amount from me. But if
Wow.
I have orders, he gets the fixed amount plus an X% of the commission for the order, whatever.
Wow.
And for us, it's easy because we don't have to invest a lot of capital in these.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So is it still running? The business
Yes,
is
it is still running. It's 4 years in the running. So yeah,
with
still running.
profits. With profits.
Oh yeah. We broke even in the first year itself. So touch wood, because of connections and everything, like hometown,
Yeah.
and being in different city, and we were charged on. We started early on in third year, so we knew what we were doing. It wasn't just something that we started.
Okay.
We broke even in the first year because we didn't have any capital cost. Whatever we were doing was just our time, and we paid us back when we sold it off. So yeah, that's all it is, and it is profitable at the moment.
Do you have plans in expanding it too?
Not me, to be honest, because both of us are leading a different life.
Okay.
We do want to keep it running because it's our baby. It's something that we've developed. So as long as we have some stakes in it and we are the client facing end of it, because we interact with all the clients. I have two full part-time employees there in Ahmedabad who do interact with these clients.
Wow.
And we both founders have an arrangement where we go home at different times so that we can keep interacting with clients. Okay. So if I go in June, July this year, my partner goes in December or January.
Okay.
And if he goes in June, July, I go in December, January, vice versa.
Good. So what about your startup here in Australia? What about that?
So in Australia, I run an event management company as a side hustle. And that startup is basically about providing local production teams to events. Like if you want to bring up a stand-up comedian from India to Australia, but you don't have the resources or the finances to bring their team, or, to have teams in every city in Australia, you hire people like us who have teams in all cities. Our work is to manage the artist, starting from picking them from the airport, or, making sure their mental health is all right, or having food arranged for them before the show, having the lights and venue set up properly, making sure the crowd is seated on time, everything. So we do the local management.
That's the startup. What is it called?
TDH Event Management. It's called Tom, Dick and Harry Event Management Company.
Okay. Did you guys actually do the organizing for Rahul Subramaniam stand-up comedy?
Yes, we did. Yes. So we were managing those. We have been actually managing a lot of shows recently in the stand-up comedy factor, starting from Zakir Khan, Anubhav Singh Bassi, to Rahul Subramaniam as well. Yes, which was the last show we did.
Okay. So you basically provide people, and then to organize it. And so the client, whoever is bringing them from there, are going to totally depend on you.
That's correct. And then that's just one leg of it. We do for corporates as well. Like if you want to organize exhibition and conferences, but you don't have, like if I'm a company in Melbourne, but the exhibition is in Sydney, and I want to send somebody there, but I don't have the money to send somebody there, you can hire us and we connect you with students who have the same expertise. So if I'm an IT company in Melbourne wanting to send somebody who understands my IT product and stand on my booth in Sydney, we have IT students who would reach out and understand what your product is, go there and then stand and man the booth and explain your product. And because they are from the field, they know how to answer the questions as well.
Because you were working as a student union, you were doing unions in Monash University, right? You were a member of it, or you were leading them? You were leading them?
So I was one of the office bearers of the union. There are 20 different positions. I was one of the 20 people. But you need to know there are 40,000 students and there are only 20 of us to manage them. So I was one of the 20, and we each have different portfolio.
Yeah. Did that help you get the connections to do this startup? Because you need human resources.
No. It's completely independent. So how we work is we do have student connections and we know people in these unions who do connect us on and off. But it's completely independent. We don't are dependent on student unions for our hiring requirements now.
Okay. Why I asked you that question is because that I was in the show, this Rahul Subramaniam stand-up comedy. I was there. And then I was there with my daughter, and then I was telling her that I sense that it's a startup, because I'll tell you why. Because everybody who was working there, with all the headphones, and you guys were jumping around, bouncing around. Everybody was so attentive. I told my daughter that these are students definitely, and this is a startup, because the enthusiasm you could see in your faces and how you guys were working, how you were helping it out. Trust me, it brought to the auditorium itself. When you're entering and when we're sitting in our chairs and stuff, you guys made it more brighter. You did really a good job, actually. Yeah, I have to tell you,
Thank you so much.
Because the coordination with you guys, and then you helping it out, filling the seats. I didn't see one of you guys leaning onto the stairs or, standing. Nobody, in most of the people who are organizing come and sit in the chairs after once the show start, or they lean to the wall, or, they relax a bit. But you guys, I haven't seen one of you guys relaxing. You're observing if anybody is holding their phone up, you're bouncing up and down, and then you did a good job. Your TDH is really good. I have to tell you that. Because I experienced it myself.
So much. It comes because all of us have a passion for event management. So we all love what we do, and it's just as a side hustle, as I said, so it's not, we don't do it for the money, we do it for the fun of it. So I think that's why you see us a lot more enthusiastic and wanting to give the audience a good time.
No, trust me. I have to appreciate these startups, and then, youngsters coming up and doing all these things, because that literally made a difference. I have been to shows like this before, but this one did make a difference. From the moment I have entered the auditorium to the moment I sat down to the moment I left the auditorium, it was all like full of energy. It was good. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I'll definitely pass it on to the team. They would love to hear it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So you are doing this startup. So how is this startup going here in Australia? Is it good?
It's going good. We have contracts from these producing companies for about 1.5 years now. So we have a recurring income.
Okay.
As I said, we pay all our events and volunteers as well, because a lot of these event volunteers work for free. It's just about that you get to see the show for free and stuff like that, but we pay all of them. So we are not as profitable as we want to be, but we are still working on a financial model that would give us that financial freedom. Okay. But it is still like we are not making a loss, technically.
Okay, so, good. But definitely you're going to make good profits in it, because I see that hard work and enthusiasm in it. So you'll definitely reach there. Yeah, thank you. And so are you working as well, other than this startup here in Australia?
I do have a 9 to 5. I work in biomedical engineering, my own field, and then I do this on weekends.
Wow. Okay. So did you hear about this bilateral agreement between Australia and India regarding the education qualifications to equalize or something? Can you tell me a bit about that?
I think it is a part of the Quad arrangement between our countries. And how it works is that currently you need to undergo something called as a degree assessment, which is your bachelor's degree assessment. And what it happens is, or how it works is that because I've not studied my bachelor's in Australia, I need to prove that I have the bachelor's level education as compared to a bachelor's level, what I would have studied here in Australia.
Okay.
It is a expensive process, about $2,000 to $3,000, right?
Wow.
But with this bilateral agreement, the Indian government would provide the Australian government to the list of university based on the factors that the Australian government has given them, and identify universities that meet those factors, and then give the list to Australian government, which means that if you are a part of if you are a student as a bachelor student of one of that university, you don't need to go through this process for your permanent residency. So that's my understanding of those bilateral agreement and how the education universities would be tying up between India and Australia.
Okay. So any more suggestions for the students who want to come and study abroad, be it Australia, be it United States, or, be it anywhere? But also tell me, why would you suggest Australia?
I think I would suggest Australia because the life here is much more comfortable, be it weather, be it labor laws, be it work, or be it professional opportunities or environment itself. Like you see so much greenery here than you see back in India. I think Australia, it may not be the biggest country or, the biggest opportunistic country in the world, but it's not far behind than, being on the top 1% of the countries. I mean, like Australia has good healthcare system, it has good education system and public sector. Your afterlife is easy.
Yes.
So it makes a factor, and then you have easier option of staying long term. So it makes easier for you. So I think if everybody is considering different countries, and why, if you're not leaning towards Australia, I say lean towards Australia because it would make your life easier.
Yeah.
And the temperature here is just too good, and the beaches are fantastic. If you are a water baby, you would love the beaches.
Yeah. And then I would like to also add that as per my understanding from what you spoke now on the podcast is that, so your initial master's degree would be for 2 years, and then you talked about temporary residency, which is another 2 years. Okay, so that's 4 years. And then if you're doing good, you immediately go to permanent residency, right? So in 4 years,
I did, yes.
Yeah, in 4 years, basically you got the permanent residency, which is equal to a green card.
That's correct. You have every rights. You have every rights apart from voting and having a passport of Australian holder. I have all the other rights similar to an Australian citizen, except for a passport and voting rights.
Okay, for citizenship also, if you stay in the country for 4 years, I think you can get the citizenship as well. It's not hard.
Yeah, you have to apply for it. It's easy to apply. It's not that you don't have to.
It's not.
Yeah,
you don't have to wait all your life, 70 years or 80 years. Okay. So any more tips from engineering students or any degree students to come from India? Like, do this right in India, it's easy. Do this right. What would you say?
I think I would just say try to create an overall application. Don't just focus on academics. I don't say do not focus on academics and just score like low marks or something like that and use it as an excuse. But an overall application would go much ahead than a specific application which is good in one area of life. Okay. It's better to be jack of all and master of one rather than jack of all and master of none.
And would you say don't be less confident just by looking at your mark sheet or by what you perform?
Oh yeah, definitely. Don't under advantage yourself just because of numbers that are there in your life. Marks are just a number. Okay. It's all about what you have gained. Like some people might retain a lot, but they have exam pressure and they don't score well in exam. So it doesn't matter. As long as you know what you are doing and you understand what you're doing, I don't think you should undervalue yourself.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Karan. Thank you for being on the show. It's really helpful. And I hope viewers who wants to come and study abroad, Karan has given us all the tips you need, all the process. It was very easy for me. As a third party, I'm not even applying for anything, but still it seemed pretty easy walk for me. Thank you so much again, Karan, for coming on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste, Karan. Thank you.
No worries, Pratisha. Thank you.